All right, so let me just show you some of the cucumbers I got growing, and some of the other stuff that popped up as a volunteer. I'll go over those once I get around to them. So I only grown 4 cucumbers this year, intentionally anyway. And the 4 cucumbers that I am growing is the mini white cucumber down here. The mini white, which is a couple of these plants here. They're just starting to come out of transplant shock, and they're just starting to look healthy now. They were yellowing up a lot no matter what I did. If I gave it Miracle-Gro, if I gave it other fertilizer, if I gave it Epsom, it didn't matter. It was staying yellow. So it was really bad transplant shock, but they seem like they're coming to now, and they're starting to grow now. So I'm gonna let these do what they want to do. If they want to grow like a bed and just grow along the ground and lay your cucumbers that way, or I left them the strings like you see against this pole, and they can climb those strings. And you can see I got beans that are coming up here, climbing the strings now. And these are my Romano beans, and I almost don't even have control of those things because they come up as volunteers every year on their own, and they come up all over the place. So this is one of those Romano beans that are coming up as a volunteer. So I figured, you know what, just let it grow. It's the way it wants to grow itself. Let it grow, and then it does it every year. Every year it re-sows itself. So we got those coming up, but I wanted to show you my cucumbers. I mean, so we got the mini white cucumber right there. And then we got the Persia Persia pickling cucumber. That's another one I got in the middle there. And then we got over here, we have the Telegraph cucumber, which is, I believe, like another type of pickling cucumber. So we got the Telegraph growing. And then I got one more, which is the Boothby's tooth. Boothby's tooth? I don't remember what it's called. It's called Boothby's Blonde cucumber. It's not as white as the white cucumber I did a video on last year. It's not as white as that. That cucumber was really white. This one's not as white, but it is like a blondish color, and it's a very nice cucumber. I've grown the Boothby's before, and I like them so. And I've been growing those for, oh God, I bought seeds for those 8-9 years ago, and I've been growing them almost every year. Haven't had a lot of luck throughout the years with them, but the first year I bought them and grew them, they grew really well, and I liked them. So that was the Boothby's. And I have flea beetles in my greenhouse. Again, I can't get rid of these things. All right, so those are the 4 cucumbers I'm primarily growing. Now, the volunteers that are coming up, it's also quite interesting because some of the volunteers that I didn't plant are most likely a SIKKIM cucumber. I'm hoping it's a SIKKIM right here. It's either a SIKKIM because I know that the squirrels got in, they bit up some of the cucumbers, and they were eating the seeds out of them, but they didn't get all the seeds, so some of the SIKKIM seeds fell out, and they replanted itself. So we got some SIKKIMs, hopefully, and probably some of the other ones that were growing here were like Chinese yellow, and there were a couple of other oddballs, so we'll have to see what comes up. It could even be a lemon cucumber. I'm not even sure, but some of these might be in that family. This one, on the other hand, I don't believe is a SIKKIM cucumber or any kind of a cucumber. I believe this one here is most likely the, what is that called? Painted serpent, which is like a weird-looking striped Armenian cucumber. You can tell by the large petals. If I can hold that back. And you see the veins in the petal. That's usually reminiscent of a squash. That kind of a thing. Whereas you can see the petals for the cucumbers was very different. But this type of petal that you see here with that vein pattern in it, usually when you see that, that's usually some kind of squash. And I believe the painted serpent was one of those cucumbers. And again, the chipmunks got to one of my painted serpents, and it dropped and seeds were coming out of it. And so this is very possible to be what it is. I hope it is. That'd be good to grow this year. And again, there's more volunteers coming up over here. Oh, do I got more cucumbers in here? We're also growing in here too. I might as well mention it while I'm here. This is the yard-long doodle bean. This is a yard-long doodle bean. So we're growing those. I did a video on them years ago, but I'm going to revisit that one this year. I do have the yard-long green bean. I was going to do that this year, but I want to really give this a good shot this year. So hopefully it grows. It really went through some severe transplant shock. So hopefully it doesn't stunt out and fail on me. But if it comes through, that's going to be a great bean to grow in here because they make beans that are 3 feet long. But I'm also got some of the other volunteers popping up all over the place in my greenhouse. Why are they popping up in my greenhouse? I don't know. I didn't put any of these things in my greenhouse. I guess the chipmunks were bringing in all of the fruits that I didn't get to in the garden. They were bringing them here and eating them. And while I did that, well, they reseeded my greenhouse. One of the things that you've seen coming up in my greenhouse are these things, and they're coming up all over the place. What those things are, I'll give you a good view of them in a minute. There are a bunch of them. There's a whole bunch right there, I think. I think that's a whole patch of them coming up. There's a couple of them in here. Those are the Mexican sour gherkins, or mice melons. And the mice melons are coming up like crazy in my greenhouse. Here's one that's growing in my flower pot over here, which is one of my peppers that I brought in for the winter. So how that mice melon cucumber thing, whatever you want to call it, got in that pot and grew, I have no idea. Because those things were nowhere near this pot. None of them ever fell in it. The chipmunks must have sat on top of it, ate that thing on top of there, and one of the seeds got loose, and here it is. Now it's growing. This is the longest one. I've got over a dozen of these grown up from volunteer, and this is the longest one. It's already reached the top of the metal up there, which is going to cover the whole top of this thing. So I'll have mice melons all over the place, but I don't mind because I love those little melons. They are delicious. We'll even try roasting them, but I don't think I'll like that. I like them crunchy and chewy like that. I can eat them like by the handfuls. Oh, and there is one more cucumber I did plant here. There actually is a couple of things. I don't know. I may have to transplant this one thing or both of these things. I'm really not sure. Because the bean vines kicked in right here. These bean vines kicked in, and now they're starting to take off. And when these bean vines take off, they'll just kill all the sunlight in the area. Anything underneath them is not going to get any sunlight. So what we have growing in here is the Chinese yellow cucumber, and that's just starting to get, it's coming out of transplant shock, so it's starting to come up, but I'm going to need to clear it away for this thing so it can grow. You see, I gotta let this thing get a little bigger so it has a chance. So we got a couple of them coming up, and I also have in here, if it didn't die on me, right there we go. I might have to transplant this one. This is the last seed. I planted all my seeds from this, and this is the only one that took. And I'm surprised I even got this. But this is called the jelly melon. And we got to do a review on it. I grew that 1 year. I grew for a couple years. The first couple years I didn't do so good, but I got a couple that came out of it. But 1 year I grew them, and the plant literally grew like it was on steroids. I mean, the thing absolutely exploded. I probably got 50 or 60 of these little spiked cucumbers that came off of this thing. I probably got like 50 or 60 of those things. There were so many of them I wasn't able to eat them. They were rotting up there. And they were huge too. They got really big. And they had these spikes, so it was really hard to handle. You couldn't just eat it, you know what I mean? You have to prepare this thing. But I definitely want to show you the jelly melon. I definitely got to show you that thing. And I've grown them before. They're a fun plant to grow. I may have to transplant this because the other plants are really, they're really taking off, and they're going to just crowd these out. There's no way that this is going to keep up with it. Just got to get put into different soil and in a pot and then brought up to the sunlight. And then it'll take off. Now, I might even do the same with the Chinese cucumber because for some reason, they really didn't want to come up, and then they just came up on their own later, though. Like, all these cucumbers sprouted, and these were, like, dead, and then all of a sudden, just before I was ready to dump the empty ones out, I planted these, and there was, like, soil left with these were in the seeds, in that little starter thing. Just before I was ready to dump it out, a day or two before, boom, a couple of sprouts came up out of there. So I said, all right, we'll leave it, and I let it grow and grow and grow, and it was really didn't want to grow. It was stunty, but nevertheless, something did come out of them. And like I said, that's the last seed to that. So I got to do whatever I can do, whatever I got to do to try to save this little plant. I'll put it in soil and take it out of here. I should have never did this. I thought it would take off, but it's not taking off. It's still stunty. It needs a lot of encouragement. I may even have to winter that thing over. I don't know. But anyway, I just wanted to give you a quick look at my cucumbers. I didn't want this to be a greenhouse tour or anything. I just wanted to show you my cucumbers. Unfortunately, some of the other plants are surrounding it are, you're going to see what they are, so you probably want to know what they are. And I also have these two I got to plant out. These are my celeries, and they're really slow growing, the celeries. This is my spinach, giant noble spinach, and that is my hot pink chard. No, it's chard? What is this? Hot pink Swiss chard. Yeah, that's what it is. I got to plant those out. I still got to get them in pots and plant them so we can get... Planting them in here now is too late. Originally, I had those. I was going to put them in here, and all this stuff came up. So, we'll have to do something with that. But anyway, that's a side note. All right, that's it. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.